Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about data protection. So we're going to start off with a discussion of on-site and off-site replication. So replication is going to involve creating and maintaining one or more identical copies of data and configurations to ensure the data redundancy and availability. So there's two different primary replication methods that exist. One is going to be on-site or on-premises, and the other is going to be off-site or off-premises. And when we talk about on-premises or off-premises, they call it on-prem, off-prem, things like that. So when we're talking about on-site, we're talking about we're going to be doing the copying at our location, in the server room, wherever it is. When we're talking about off-site, we're talking about, creating duplicates that are going to be in a separate physical location, such as a remote data center, public cloud. It could be in a disaster recovery site, something like that. So when we talk about the process of recovery, data recovery, and things like that. We have, so let's say we were to have a big disaster and we needed to come back up online, get our services, everything running, and it would have to be at another site. Well, we have four different types of sites that we talk about. We talk about a cold site, a warm site, a hot site, and a cloud site. So they vary in terms. The first three that we talk about they differ in the amount of time it takes to get up and running as well as the cost. So we've got a cold site, and that's going to be an empty facility where an organization can transport business continuity resources. So everything you need to get everything back up and going, servers, networking equipment, everything else. If it's a cold site, then you're going to have to transport your stuff there and then get it up online. That's going to take a while. You've got a warm site, and that's a facility with some, but not all of this business continuity resources in them. And it's the warm site has technology infrastructure that can be scaled up quickly with minimal resources. And then at the extreme end of it, from the cold, you've got the hot site. And the hot site is a facility with all the necessary stuff, in there and up and running. So when you look at those three, cold site, because it doesn't have anything in there, it's going to be low cost. You have a little bit more cost with a warm site, and then a hot site, you essentially have a whole different running facility. So it's going to be a lot higher cost than a cold site. And then we have a cloud site, and a cloud site is going to be a cloud service provider that's going to serve as the disaster recovery site. And you've got SLAs, the service level agreements with the cloud provider that's going to determine their capabilities and your needs for availability, scalability, and data security. So one thing you have to take into account when you're thinking about disruptions is capacity planning. So you've got to keep capacity planning in mind because that's going to that's going to help you estimate and prepare the necessary resources that you're going to need in disaster recovery operations. So this is very important to keep in mind. You also have to be concerned about the continuity of operations planning, what we call COOP or COOP. It's a strategy designed to ensure that the critical business functions continue during emergencies. So this is going to, it's going to require properly planned and adequately resourced disaster recovery sites. You're going to need to have your processes in line. You're going to have, everybody trained on what to do to, successfully perform your recovery. We also talk about the different types of backups that are involved. When you're doing backups, data backups, you're making a copy of this data to bring to a secondary location. Maybe you're going to store it, in-house. But there's three different types of backups that we talk about. We've got full backups, we've got differential backups, and we've got incremental backups. So full backup is going to be when you take the entire data set and you back it up. You make a full copy of everything that you have, you've got a full second copy. Then you've got something that's called a differential backup. And this is going to be a copy of all the data that's changed since your last full backup. And then we've got the concept of an incremental backup. An incremental backup is going to be the amount of data that's changed since either the full backup, if the last thing you did was a full backup, or if you did an incremental backup. So let's say you have a backup system that does a full backup on Sunday night, and then Monday through Saturday, you're doing incremental backups. So what's going to happen is you're going to do a full backup on Sunday, and then Monday, you're going to come in there, you're going to look, and you're going to say, what was my last backup? Oh, the last backup was a full backup. Okay, since the full backup, what's changed since then? So from Sunday to Monday, what changed. You're going to save that as your incremental backup. Then on Tuesday, you're going to run an incremental backup, and it's going to say, okay, what was the last backup that was done? Oh, it was an incremental backup on Monday. So what data has changed since Monday? Okay, so from Monday to Tuesday, this data changed. So that's going to be your incremental backup for Tuesday. So you're going to have the large backup on Monday, and then you're going to have the small backups, every day after that. And this is important, and the book doesn't really talk about this, but you may see this on the test. When you're talking about the backup and you're talking about which process would be best for you, you also have to look at the other side of it and which is going to be faster for restoration. So it's if you've got a full backup, you can restore a full backup. That's going to take a while. If you've got, let's say, a full back and a differential backup, you've got a two-step process. You're going to back up the full backup, and then you're going to, do the differential because you've got your full backup, and then the differential is just the changes since then. But if you have incremental backups, what's going to happen is you're going to have to do the full backup, then you're going to have to apply each and every one of those incremental backups to get there. So that's a longer process. It saves in smaller amounts, but it takes a lot longer to do your actual backup. I mean, to do your actual restoration there. So those are things that you have to keep in mind. We've got something called backup journaling. So to further enhance data integrity and facilitate a robust recovery process, you can use backup journaling, and that's going to involve recording and tracking every change made to data during the backup operations. So that's going to enable you to revert to a previous state in the event that a system failure or data corruption happens. So that'll ensure that you've got data consistency and reduce your recovery time. Next, we have backup media. There's a lot of different types of backup media out there. You're all familiar with disks. There's different types of disks out there. You've got hard disk drives, which are those big, bulky drives. You've got solid state drives, which are a little bit smaller and have really nice capacity on them. Then you've got the optical disks. Optical disks will be things like the DVD, the digital video disks, or the Blu-ray disks. You also have tape drives, and you have concept of boot disks and live boot media, which usually it's you can put those onto something like a simple a simple USB stick like this. So you could put, let's say, a boot disk for a Windows system or something on here, and then you can just go and boot into it. You can also do that with Linux and other operating systems as well. We also have different types of disk arrays. We have what we call a redundant array of inexpensive disks, RAID, and RAID is a way of storing information. You can have these in a computer. Often you'll see like network attached storage or something like that. You'll be able to set up a RAID array, and RAID array, basically you take multiple disks and you can have them you can put them together so that they can be more, you can take several disks and combine them into one large disk logically. So there's different features you get from this. So when you take your disks and you put them together, depending on what kind of a RAID you're using, RAID usually go through 0 through 10. You got 0, 1, 5, 6, and 10, but they have different number of disks that are required, and they do different things. So at the simplest, you've got two drives that are together, and it does something called striping. And when you're doing striping, data is going to be spread or striped across the disks. And this isn't going to give you any kind of redundancy or safety, but it's going to speed up your access. The second thing that you can do, the RAID 1 type, is called mirroring. And that's when you have two disks, a minimum of two disks. If you have two disks, then everything that gets written to one is going to be written to two. So if disk one dies, disk two survives, and you've got a copy of it. RAID 5, which is very common, is striping with parity. So striping with one drive provides error detection or parity. So it needs three drives to do this, and it's going to have one drive that's going to be, keeping the parity for it, and it's going to essentially know when data has been corrupted, or when you've got an error. The problem with it, or one thing that you'll notice, is the capacity also is different for each of these configurations. So like mirroring, you've got two disks, but you've only got the capacity of one of those disks really because one of them is for backup. Striping with parity, which is RAID 5, you're not going to get so if you've got, let's say, 3 disks, you're not going to get the full 3 disks because you're using one for the parity. And then as you go to like RAID 6 and RAID 10, you'll find that also the number of the amount of storage isn't simply the number of disks times the storage capacity because you're using some of these for parity, and so that that drive isn't being used for data itself. So yeah, so there's trade-offs with using different types of RAID here. Also, there's the concept of online backups and offline backups. Online backups, it's always updated and accessible backup to a third party or cloud service provider. That's an online backup. Offline backups, those are regularly updated and readily available backup to on-premise storage. Storage itself, there's a lot to talk about with storage. Traditional backup methods have used on-site storage options like tape drives, storage area networks, network-attached storage, NAS drives. You've got cloud and third-party off-site backup options that have continued to become popular as time's gone on. But there's a lot of things to think about when you're talking about cloud and off-site third-party backup options. You've got bandwidth requirements for making these backups, so the amount of time it would take to back it up as well as restore it, it could take a long time. There's some places where after you get that initial, backup done, it only does incremental backup, so it's a little bit faster. And if you ever need to recover, you can pay a fee and they'll send you a disk with your data on it, so that you don't have to try restoring this slowly, over the internet. It would be quite a lot to do a terabyte of data or a terabyte of your drive, slowly over the internet. You have to, keep in mind the time to retrieve files and the cost to retrieve the files, because some storage solutions out there will put it in a cold storage, so they'll give you a cheaper price, but it won't be as quickly accessed. So it'll take a little bit of time to access, and it'll cost you money to do that as well. There's reliability. There's, many cloud providers, they've got extremely high advertised reliability rates, like 5 nines for the backup and storage services. These rates may beat the expected durability of a local tape or a disk option that you have. And then you also have to think that new security models are required for backups. You got to separate your accounts. You've got additional controls, and you got to do encryption of the data in the remote storage location. These are all things you have to think about. So they also talk about SAN in here. SAN is the storage area networks. And they talk about storage area networks along with network attached storage, how it gives you access to what looks like a series of drives that are stored across the network. So it'll just appear as extra drives on your system. And then we talk about device configurations. So we need to store information about like the devices that we use. So we've got there's a difference between non-persistent storage and persistent storage. So non-persistent storage, that's a type of temporary storage location where the stored data does not survive a power loss. So like on your computer, your RAM is non-persistent storage. So when your computer shuts off, anything that's in RAM it's gone. Persistent storage, that's going to be like your hard disk or something like that. That's permanent storage location where the storage, your stored data survives that data loss. So the data is written off on a disk, so it's going to be safe. So a device has multiple configurations depending on which storage location is used. So a startup configuration is a device configuration located in the persistent storage. Then you've got your running configuration, and that's the device configuration that's located in the non-persistent storage. So that's going to be wiped out once the system's turned off. So running configuration can be saved to persistent storage to make the new startup configuration or be saved as the device state. So a device state is used to provide configuration replication through a persistent point-in-time device configuration. So these are called known states or known good configurations. And in something like Windows, you've got 3 different known good configurations. You've got the last known good configuration, and that's updated. So when you log into Windows, it's going to record, if you successfully boot it up and everything, it's going to save that as your last known good configuration. On VMs, you can do snapshots. So you can take snapshots of the system at any point in time. And then you've got the concept of an image. And an image is a manually created known good configuration commonly used for a PC or server. So you can take that image and if you've got for example, a lab that has a bunch of systems in there, you can create this image to which it'll all go back to. So you can have them, dissolve, whatever changes have been made since somebody powered it on, it'll revert back to that initial image. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for this discussion. Again, we're talking about data protection, talking about on-site and off-site replication. We've got, on-site or on-prem replication. We've got off-prem replication. There's the ideas of cold sites, which are, cheaper, but, not really configured out. Warm sites somewhere in the middle. You've got hot sites, which are fully functional and ready to go, but they're expensive to keep up. You've got your cloud sites, which can which can, take over, and you'll have service level agreements to control that. You've got to remember to, do your capacity planning and your continuity of operations planning, so you'll have the ability to, recover as well as the process for recovering. We also talked about full, differential, and incremental backups. Full one does everything. Differential does everything since the last full, and then you've got incremental. It's going to get everything since either the full or the last incremental. Then you've got backup journaling that's going to give you some more robustness there when you're doing looking at backups. And we also talked about the different types of backup media like hard drives, DVDs, tape drives, live boot media. We talked about RAID arrays, and then we talked about storage and the considerations you have to have for different types of storage. So, oh, and yeah, then we talked about saving your device configurations in non-persistent versus persistent storage. We talked about the known good configurations, like your last known good configuration, your snapshots, and your images. So that's it for this section. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I will see you in the next video. Aloha.